The fluorescent lights above my hospital bed burned into my retinas like tiny suns. Every breath sent sharp jolts of pain through my ribcage. My left leg was suspended in traction, encased in a cast from hip to ankle. My right arm was immobilized in a sling. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in the room until I heard the door open. I turned my head slowly, every movement deliberate and agonizing. My husband Derek stood in the doorway, but something was wrong. He wasn't rushing to my bedside. He wasn't crying with relief that I'd survived. He was checking his Rolex, his jaw set in that familiar expression of impatience I'd seen 1,000 times when he was annoyed by a delayed flight or slow restaurant service. "Derek," I whispered, my voice hoarse from the ventilator tube they'd only removed that morning. "You came." He walked toward me with measured steps, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the linoleum floor. In his hand was a manila envelope. Not flowers. Not a card. An envelope. "Emma, we need to talk," he said, pulling a chair to my bedside but not sitting in it. He remained standing, looking down at me like a CEO about to fire an underperforming employee. My heart monitor's beeping quickened. Through the fog of pain medication, alarm bells were ringing in my mind. "The doctor said you're going to need at least 6 months of physical therapy," Derek continued, his voice flat and businesslike. "Possibly a year. Your pelvis was shattered. Your leg has 3 fractures. They're not sure you'll walk normally again." "I know," I said softly. "But I'm alive. We can get through this together. I can't do this, Emma." He cut me off, dropping the envelope onto my lap. The weight of it against my broken body felt like an anchor. "I'm filing for divorce." The words hit me harder than the SUV that had T-boned my car 4 days ago. The room started spinning. I tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain exploded through my torso. "What?" The word came out as a gasp. "Derek, I was in an accident. I almost died." "What are you talking about?" He finally met my eyes, and what I saw there froze my blood. There was no warmth, no regret, no conflict. Just cold calculation. "Emma, be realistic. I'm 38 years old. I'm the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company. I can't be tied to someone who's going to be in a wheelchair for the next year, maybe permanently. I have a reputation to maintain. A certain lifestyle." He gestured vaguely at my broken body. "This doesn't fit into my life." I stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. This was the man I'd married 8 years ago. The man who'd proposed on a beach in Santorini, who'd promised to love me in sickness and in health. The man I'd given up everything for. "Derek, please. You're in shock." "You don't mean this," I pleaded, my voice breaking. "I love you. We can figure this out together." "I've already figured it out." He pulled his phone from his pocket and turned the screen toward me. On it was a photo of him with his 26-year-old secretary, Madison. They were at some upscale restaurant, his arm around her shoulders, both of them laughing. The photo was dated 2 days ago, while I was unconscious in the ICU, fighting for my life. "Madison and I have been seeing each other for 8 months, Derek said matter-of-factly, as if he were discussing stock prices. "She's young, vibrant, healthy. Everything a man in my position needs. Papers are in that envelope. Sign them. My lawyer will be by tomorrow to collect them." Hot tears streamed down my face, mixing with the adhesive from the bandage on my temple. 8 months? You've been cheating on me for 8 months? Cheating is such an ugly word. He pocketed his phone. I prefer to think of it as upgrading. And honestly, Emma, you should be grateful I'm being straightforward about this instead of dragging it out. I've already moved all our assets into accounts in my name only. The house, the cars, our investment portfolio, all mine. The joint account has just enough to cover your hospital bills. Once you're discharged, you're on your own. Cruelty of it took my breath away. You can't do that. Those are marital assets. I have rights. Actually, I can. Derek's smile was shark-like. Remember that paperwork I had you sign last year? The investment restructuring documents? Read the fine print, Emma. You signed away your rights to everything. My lawyers made sure of it. My mind raced back to a year ago. Derek had come home excited about a new investment opportunity, thrust a stack of papers in front of me while I was cooking dinner, said it was just standard stuff to consolidate our finances for better returns. I'd signed without reading, trusting him completely. I'd been such a fool. Oh, and one more thing, Derek added, almost as an afterthought. You'll need to find somewhere else to live once you're discharged. I'm moving Madison into our house this weekend. Consider it my parting gift to you. I won't contest the divorce or ask for alimony. Just sign the papers and disappear from my life. He turned to leave, and that's when something inside me shifted. Through the pain, through the heartbreak, through the fog of betrayal, a small voice in my head whispered, "He has no idea who you really are." I looked at Derek's retreating back and did something that surprised even me. I smiled. "Derek," I called out softly. He paused at the door but didn't turn around. "Do you remember how we met?" "What does that have to do with anything?" "Humor me. I'm heavily medicated. Might be my last request as your wife." He sighed dramatically. "At that charity gala 8 years ago, you were serving champagne. I was there representing Carter Technologies. You spilled a drink on my Armani suit. And you said it was fate," I continued, my smile widening despite the pain. "You pursued me for 3 months. You said you'd never met anyone so genuine, so real. You said you were tired of the fake, materialistic women in your social circle. What's your point, Emma?" "My point is you were right about one thing. I am genuine. I am real. And that's precisely why you're going to regret this conversation more than anything you've ever done in your life." Derek finally turned around, his expression a mixture of amusement and annoyance. "Are you threatening me? You lying broken in a hospital bed with nothing and no one? That's rich. Not a threat. A promise." I kept smiling, and I could see it was unnerving him. "You should go now. Madison's probably wondering where you are. Enjoy your weekend moving her into my house." He studied me for a long moment, clearly confused by my reaction. He'd expected tears, begging, perhaps even screaming. He hadn't expected a smile. "You've lost it," he muttered. "The accident scrambled your brain. Just sign the damn papers, Emma." He left, and the door closed behind him with a soft click. I stared at the envelope on my lap for a long moment, then carefully reached for the call button with my good hand. A nurse appeared within minutes. "Mrs. Carter, are you in pain? Do you need more medication?" "No, thank you, Sarah," I said, reading her name tag. Over the past 4 days, I'd made it a point to learn the names of everyone who cared for me. "Actually, I need you to do me a favor. Could you get my phone from the drawer? And close the door, please. I need to make a private call." Sarah, a kind woman in her 50s who'd been nothing but gentle with me, hesitated. "Are you sure you should be making calls? You need rest." "This call is the reason I'm going to rest easy for the first time in 4 days." She must have seen something in my expression because she nodded, retrieved my phone, and quietly left the room, closing the door behind her. I stared at the phone for a moment, my thumb hovering over a contact I hadn't called in 8 years. The contact simply read, "Alexander. My brother. My older brother, the CEO of Stone Industries, one of the largest conglomerates in North America. The brother I'd walked away from when I'd decided to marry Derek and live a normal life, free from the complications of being Emma Stone, heir to a billion-dollar empire. I'd wanted Derek to love me for me, not for my family's money and power. So I'd hidden my identity, taken a job as a caterer at that charity gala, and lived as Emma Carter, ordinary woman, for 8 beautiful, naive, stupid years. The smile on my face grew wider as I pressed the call button. Alexander answered on the second ring. "This is Alexander Stone." "Hi, big brother," I said softly. "It's Emma. I need to come home." There was a long pause. Then, "Emma? My God. Where are you? Are you okay?" "I'm at Mercy General Hospital in Seattle. Room 347. And I'm perfect. Actually, I'm better than perfect. I'm ready to stop playing house and remember who I really am. I'm on my way. I'll have the jet ready in 20 minutes. Whatever you need, Emma. Whatever it takes." "Oh, I know exactly what I need," I said, glancing at the divorce papers. "And Alexander? Bring our legal team. All of them. We're going to teach someone a very expensive lesson about what happens when you throw away an Emma Stone." As I hung up, another wave of pain coursed through my body, but I barely felt it. 'Cause for the first time in 4 days since waking up from the accident that should have killed me, I felt something stronger than pain. I felt powerful. The divorce papers lay on my lap and signed. Derek thought he'd won. He thought he'd discarded a broken, helpless woman with nothing and no one. He had no idea that the woman he'd just abandoned controlled more wealth than he'd see in 10 lifetimes. He had no idea that the simple caterer he'd married was actually the sister of the very man he'd been desperately trying to schedule a meeting with for the past 6 months. He had no idea that his entire company's survival depended on a merger with Stone Industries that would never, ever happen now. Most importantly, he had no idea that the accident that had landed me here wasn't an accident at all. I'd been remembering fragments, flashbacks coming to me between morphine doses. The SUV that hit me didn't stop at the red light. It accelerated. And in the split second before impact, I'd seen the driver's face clearly in my rearview mirror. I knew that face. I'd seen it in photos on Derek's phone, sitting in the passenger seat of his Tesla, laughing at his jokes. Madison Pierce. They hadn't just wanted me gone. They'd wanted me dead. My smile faded as the enormity of that realization settled over me. Derek and his mistress had tried to kill me. If I hadn't swerved at the last second, if the impact had been slightly different, I wouldn't be lying here planning my revenge. I'd be in the morgue. The door opened again and Dr. James Liu entered, checking my chart. He was the orthopedic surgeon who'd reconstructed my shattered pelvis and leg, a brilliant man in his early 40s with kind eyes and steady hands. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Carter?" he asked, approaching my bedside. "Please call me Emma," I said. "And I'm feeling surprisingly good, considering." He raised an eyebrow. "That's the first time I've heard you sound positive since you woke up. Did something happen?" "You could say that. My husband just divorced me while I'm lying in traction." Dr. Liu's expression darkened. "That was the man who was just here?" "I saw him leaving." He looked annoyed, not concerned. "That's because he is annoyed. Apparently, having a wife who might not walk properly again is bad for his image." "I'm sorry," Dr. Liu said, and I could tell he genuinely meant it. "But for what it's worth, you will walk again. It'll take time and hard work, but I've seen your determination. You're a fighter." "You have no idea," I murmured. Over the next 3 hours, I drifted in and out of sleep, but my mind was racing. I thought about the past 8 years, seeing them now through a different lens. Derek's sudden interest in consolidating our finances. His insistence that I quit my job and be a stay-at-home wife once his company started doing well. His encouragement to cut ties with my past life, which meant cutting ties with my family. He'd been systematically isolating me, controlling me, preparing me to be the perfect victim. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd assumed that because I'd walked away from my family's money, I'd lost access to it. He'd assumed that being estranged meant being cut off. He didn't know that every quarter for the past 8 years, Alexander had been depositing my share of the Stone family dividends into a private account I'd never touched. He didn't know that account now held over $40 million. He didn't know that with one phone call I could mobilize more resources than his entire company was worth. And he definitely didn't know that I'd spent the first 26 years of my life learning how to run a corporation, negotiate billion-dollar deals, and destroy business rivals who underestimated me. Emma Carter, the meek wife, was dead. She died in that car crash 4 days ago. But Emma Stone? She was very much alive and absolutely furious. The door burst open, and Alexander strode in like a force of nature. At 42, he was tall, commanding, with the same dark hair and sharp features we'd inherited from our mother. Behind him came 3 people I recognized immediately: Margaret Chen, our head corporate attorney, David Park, our criminal defense specialist, and my childhood friend and Alexander's right hand, Sophia Martinez. "Oh, Emma," Sophia gasped, rushing to my bedside. "Look at you. Who did this?" "That's a longer story than you'd think," I said, squeezing her hand with my good one. "But we have a lot of work to do." Alexander pulled up a chair, his expression deadly serious. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told them about Derek, about Madison, about the divorce papers and the stolen assets. I told them about the car crash and what I'd remembered about Madison's face behind the wheel. With each word, Alexander's expression grew darker. By the time I finished, his hands were clenched into fists. "We'll destroy him," he said simply. "Not just legally. Financially, socially, professionally. When we're done, Derek Carter won't be able to get a job managing a convenience store." "No," I said, and everyone looked at me in surprise. "We do this smart. We do this so thoroughly that when it's over, he won't even understand how he lost everything. Margaret, I need you to look into those documents he had me sign. Find the loopholes, the invalid clauses, anything we can use." Margaret was already making notes on her tablet. "Consider it done. Also, if you never legally changed your name to Carter, which I'm guessing you didn't, those documents might not even be binding. Were they made out to Emma Carter or Emma Stone?" I thought back, replaying the memory. Emma Carter. Then they're worthless. You can't sign away assets you don't legally own as that identity. A laugh bubbled up from my chest, sending a spike of pain through my ribs that I barely noticed. He stole from a woman who doesn't legally exist. He's even stupider than I thought. "What about the attempted murder?" David asked. "If Madison Pierce was driving that SUV, we need to prove it." "Traffic cameras," Sophia suggested. "License plate readers. I'll have our people pull every piece of footage from that intersection." "Do it," Alexander ordered. "And quietly. I don't want them knowing we're coming until it's too late to run." We spent the next 2 hours planning. Every angle covered, every contingency prepared for. By the time they left, promising to return the next day with updates, I felt exhausted but exhilarated. As the sun set outside my hospital window, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I reached for my phone again. This time, I pulled up Derek's social media. There he was, already posting photos with Madison. At our favorite restaurant. In our living room, her draped over our couch. The captions were sickeningly sweet. "Starting my next chapter with this amazing woman, and sometimes life has a way of showing you where you really belong." Comments were full of people congratulating him, telling him he deserved happiness. None of them knew about me lying here in the hospital. He'd kept the accident quiet, told people I was away visiting family. I scrolled through Madison's page next. She was 26, beautiful in that Instagram filter kind of way, with long blonde hair and a penchant for posting motivational quotes about claiming your power and taking what's yours. One photo made me pause. It was from 6 months ago, Madison sitting in what looked like a mechanic's garage, caption reading, "Learning new skills. You never know when they might come in handy, winking face." My blood ran cold. She'd learned how to work on cars. 6 months ago. Right around the time Derek started moving our assets around. They'd been planning this for months. Possibly longer. A soft knock on the door pulled me from my dark thoughts. Dr. Liu entered again, this time not in his surgical scrubs but in casual clothes, jeans and a button-down shirt. I'm off duty, he explained, but I wanted to check on you one more time. You had a lot of visitors today. I hope it wasn't too exhausting. Actually, it was exactly what I needed, I said honestly. Dr. Liu, can I ask you a medical question? Of course. If someone wanted to fake the severity of their injuries to appear more helpless than they actually are, would that be possible? He studied me carefully. That's an interesting question. What are you planning, Emma? Nothing illegal, I promise. I just want my soon-to-be ex-husband to continue thinking I'm broken and helpless for a little while longer. Can you help me with that? A slow smile spread across his face. You know what? I think I can. Your injuries are severe, there's no faking that. But your recovery could be publicized as more uncertain than it actually is. For medical privacy reasons, of course. Of course, I agreed, matching his smile. There's one condition, he added. When this is all over, you tell me the whole story. I have a feeling it's going to be spectacular. Deal. That night, alone in my hospital room with only the beeping of machines for company, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of Derek's betrayal. I cried quietly for the marriage I'd thought I had, for the man I'd thought I loved, for the 8 years I'd wasted believing in a lie. But when the tears finally stopped, something else took their place. Not just anger, though that was there. Not just the desire for revenge, though that burned hot in my chest. It was clarity. Pure, crystalline clarity. I'd spent 8 years pretending to be someone I wasn't, and look where it had gotten me. Derek had loved Emma Carter, the simple caterer, because she was easy to control. But he would never have dared treat Emma Stone, corporate heiress, the way he'd treated me today. It was time to stop pretending. Time to remember who I'd been before I'd tried to simplify my life. Time to show Derek Carter exactly what happens when you try to throw away a woman who was born to rule boardrooms and destroy anyone who underestimated her. My phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. Footage secured. You were right. Madison Pierce was driving the vehicle that hit you. License plate matches a car registered to a shell company Derek set up 3 months ago. We have them, Emma. We have everything. I texted back. Good. Now let's make them think they've gotten away with it. Let them get comfortable. Let them think I'm broken and defeated. And then we strike. You're scary when you're angry. I missed this side of you. So did I, big brother. So did I. I set the phone down and stared at the divorce papers still lying on my bedside table. And signed. Ignored. Meaningless. Derek Carter thought he'd won. He thought he'd successfully discarded his damaged wife and moved on to an upgrade. What he didn't realize was that he'd just declared war on the wrong woman. And Emma Stone always won her wars. The next morning started with a visit from Derek's lawyer, a slick man in his 50s named Richard Brennan. He walked into my hospital room like he owned the place, barely glancing at my injuries before pulling out his briefcase. Mrs. Carter, I'm here to collect the signed divorce papers, he announced, setting a stack of additional documents on my bedside table. These are the finalized settlement agreements. As Mr. Carter explained, he's being generous by not seeking alimony and allowing you to keep your personal effects. I looked at him with what I hoped was the appropriate amount of defeat and exhaustion. I haven't signed them yet. His expression hardened. Mrs. Carter, I understand this is difficult, but dragging this out won't change anything. The dissolution of your marriage is inevitable. My client has been more than fair under the circumstances. Fair. The word came out bitter. He divorced me while I'm lying in a hospital bed, paralyzed. You're not paralyzed, Brennan corrected coldly. You have mobility issues that will likely resolve with physical therapy. There's a significant difference. And my client cannot be expected to put his life on hold indefinitely for your recovery. I let a tear slide down my cheek. It wasn't hard. Thinking about Derek's betrayal still hurt, even though I knew my revenge was coming. I just need more time. Process everything. To understand what I'm signing. You're signing away your claim to marital assets that you have no legal right to anyway, Brennan said impatiently. Mrs. Carter, let me be blunt. You have no income, no savings, no property. You can fight this if you want, but you can't afford a lawyer, and any attorney worth their salt will tell you that you signed away your rights last year. This is a courtesy visit. Sign the papers now and we can all move forward. I'd like to have my own lawyer review them first. Brennan's laugh was cruel. With what money? Mrs. Carter, I've done my due diligence on you. Your only family is parents who own a small farm in Idaho, and you haven't spoken to them in years. You have no assets, no prospects, and frankly, no options. Stop wasting everyone's time and sign the papers. I looked down at my hands, playing the part of the defeated wife. Can I have until tomorrow? Please. I just need one more day to say goodbye to my marriage. He sighed heavily, like I was asking him to move mountains. Fine. 24 hours. But Mrs. Carter, understand this. If you don't sign by tomorrow, Mr. Carter is prepared to make this very difficult for you. He has evidence of erratic behavior on your part, mental instability. He's willing to suggest that perhaps you were distracted while driving, that the accident was your fault. It would be a shame if your insurance rates went up or if there were questions about your competency. The threat was clear. Sign or be destroyed. I understand, I whispered, turning my face away as if to hide my tears. Good. I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. sharp. Have everything signed and ready. He left, and I allowed myself a small smile. 24 hours. Perfect. I immediately called Alexander. We have a problem, I said when he answered. Derek's lawyer is threatening to fabricate evidence that I caused the accident. We need to move faster than planned. Already on it, Alexander replied. Margaret has filed an emergency motion to freeze all of Derek's assets pending an investigation into the fraudulent transfer of marital property. David is meeting with the district attorney this afternoon with the evidence of Madison's attempted murder. And I've scheduled an emergency board meeting at Carter Technologies for tomorrow morning. Wait, what? Why? Because guess who's been quietly buying up shares in Carter Technologies through various shell corporations for the past 3 months? My breath caught. Alexander, you didn't. I did. Doane Industries now owns 42% of Carter Technologies. I'm the majority shareholder. And tomorrow morning, I'm calling for a vote of no confidence in Derek Carter as CEO. He's going to know something's up. Let him. By the time he figures out what's happening, it'll be too late. Oh, and Emma? You should probably turn on the news. Channel 7 is running a story that's going to interest you. I grabbed the remote and switched on the TV mounted on the wall. A reporter was standing outside a police station, and the headline at the bottom of the screen made my heart race. Tech CEO's girlfriend wanted for questioning in hit and run. Madison Pierce, 26, is being sought by police in connection with a hit-and-run accident that occurred 4 days ago on the corner of 5th and Madison. The victim, who has not been named publicly, is currently hospitalized with severe injuries. Security footage from nearby businesses shows Ms. Pierce's vehicle running a red light and striking the victim's car before fleeing the scene. Police are asking Ms. Pierce to turn herself in for questioning. I stared at the screen in shock. How did this get to the media already? I may have some friends in the press, Alexander said smoothly. And they may have received an anonymous tip about an interesting case involving attempted murder in a love triangle. The story practically wrote itself. Derek is going to lose his mind. That's the idea. I want him panicked, making mistakes. Angry people are stupid people, Emma. By this time tomorrow, his world is going to be in flames, and he won't even know who lit the match. After we hung up, I sat back against my pillows, processing everything. It was happening. The revenge I'd planned was becoming real. Sarah, my favorite nurse, came in for my afternoon medication check. You seem in better spirits today, she observed, checking my 4-line. I am, I admitted. Sarah, can I ask you something? The day of my accident, did anyone come to visit me before I woke up? She thought for a moment. Just your husband. He was here for maybe 10 minutes the first day. Seemed more interested in talking to your doctor about your prognosis than actually sitting with you. Did he ask anything specific? Now that you mention it, yes. He wanted to know if you'd be able to remember the details of the accident. Dr. Liu told him that trauma victims often have fragmented memories. She paused, her expression growing concerned. Mrs. Carter, is everything okay? Should I not have told you that? No, you did exactly right. Thank you, Sarah. After she left, I thought about what that meant. Derek had been checking to see if I'd remember Madison hitting me. He'd been covering his tracks from day one. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emma, it's James Liu. Saw the news. Assuming that's related to your situation? If you need anything, and I mean anything, let me know. Nobody deserves what was done to you. I saved his number and replied, Thank you. Your kindness means more than you know. And yes, everything is related. Justice is coming. His response was immediate. Good. She deserves it. I smiled at the screen. It was nice to know I had allies, even unexpected ones. That evening, my phone rang. Derek. I debated not answering, but decided it would be more fun to hear him panic. Emma, what the hell did you do? He shouted the moment I picked up. The police are looking for Madison. There are reporters camped outside my office. What did you tell them? I didn't tell anyone anything, I said calmly. I've been lying in a hospital bed, remember? Maybe Madison should have been more careful about running red lights and committing vehicular assault. You don't know what you're talking about. Madison wasn't even in town that day. Funny because there's security footage that says otherwise. High definition, time-stamped, showing her license plate and her face. But I'm sure the police will be interested in hearing your alibi for her. There was a long pause. You're bluffing. Am I? Why don't you turn on Channel 7 and see for yourself? I could hear him scrambling for a remote, then the sound of the news broadcast. When he came back on the line, his voice had lost its bravado. Emma, listen. We can work this out. I was hasty yesterday. The stress of the accident, it made me say things I didn't mean. Save it, Derek. I know exactly what you meant. You meant every word. Madison didn't try to kill you. I swear. It was just an accident. She panicked and left the scene, but it wasn't intentional. Accidentally ran a red light. Accidentally T-boned my car at 50 miles an hour. Accidentally drove away without calling for help. That's a lot of accidents, Derek. I'll make this right. I'll take care of your medical bills, all of them. I'll make sure you have enough money to get back on your feet. Just tell the police it was an accident. Tell them you don't want to press charges. You mean the way you took care of me yesterday? When you divorced me and stole everything I had, I'll give it all back. The house, the money, everything. We can forget this whole divorce thing happened. I laughed, and it clearly unnerved him. Derek, you don't get it. I don't want your house. I don't want your money. And I definitely don't want you. Then what do you want? I want you to realize that you made the biggest mistake of your life. I want you to watch everything you've built crumble. I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything. And most of all, I want you to understand that you didn't throw away a helpless victim. You threw away the woman who's about to destroy you. I hung up before he could respond. Within 10 minutes, my phone was flooded with calls from his number. I blocked it. Then the text started coming from Madison's number. Please, Emma. I'm so sorry. It was an accident. Please don't let them arrest me. I'll leave Derek. I'll disappear. Just please. I didn't respond to those either. The next morning, I woke to find Sophia sitting in the chair beside my bed, 2 cups of coffee from my favorite cafe on the table. "Thought you could use some real coffee instead of the hospital sludge," she said, handing me one. "Also, I have updates." "Talk to me." Madison Pierce turned herself in at 3 a.m. She's being held on charges of felony hit-and-run, attempted vehicular manslaughter, and a few other things David managed to tack on. Bail was set at $200,000. Let me guess, Derek paid it? He tried to. But here's the fun part: when he went to wire the money from his accounts this morning, he found them all frozen. Margaret's emergency motion worked. Every asset he has is locked down pending the investigation. I felt a surge of satisfaction. So Madison's still in jail? As we speak. And she's singing like a canary, throwing Derek under the bus to save herself. Apparently, the whole thing was his idea. He promised her they'd split your insurance payout once you were dead. The words hit me like a physical blow. He wanted me dead. Sophia reached over and squeezed my hand. I know. But Emma, he failed. You're alive, you're going to recover, and you're going to make him pay for every single thing he's done. Precisely 10 a.m., Alexander called. Board meeting is about to start. Derek just walked in. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. Wish I could be there to see his face. Don't worry. I'm recording everything. Oh, he's noticing the new board members now. He's looking confused. This is priceless. I heard muffled voices in the background, then Derek's voice, tinny through the phone speaker. Who are all these people? Where's my board? Alexander's voice came through clearly. Your board sold their shares. These are the new shareholders of Carter Technologies. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Alexander Stone, CEO of Stone Industries and, as of this morning, majority shareholder of your company. There was a long silence. Then Derek's voice, barely audible. Stone? As in Stone Industries? The very same. Now, let's discuss why we've called this emergency meeting. It's come to our attention that the current CEO, Derek Carter, has been involved in some rather serious criminal activities, including but not limited to attempted murder, fraud, and misappropriation of corporate funds. That's ridiculous. I don't know who's been feeding you lies, but these aren't lies, Mr. Carter. We have documentation. Bank records showing you used company money to purchase a vehicle for your girlfriend, the same vehicle she used to try to kill your wife. Speaking of which, did you know your wife was Emma Stone? Sister to me, heir to the Stone fortune, and the woman you've been systematically abusing and attempting to defraud for the past 8 years. The silence that followed was deafening. That's right, Alexander continued. The simple caterer you married was worth more than your entire company. The woman you tried to have killed controls more wealth than you've seen in your lifetime. And now, Mr. Carter, she and I are going to take great pleasure in watching you lose everything. This is insane. You can't just. We already have. The board has voted unanimously. You're fired, Mr. Carter. Security will escort you from the building. You have 15 minutes to clean out your desk. I could hear the commotion, Derek shouting, security being called. Oh, and Mr. Carter? Alexander's voice was ice cold. Don't bother going home. We've also seized your house as proceeds of fraud. The locks have been changed. You'll find your belongings in Storage Unit 247 at Public Storage on Elm Street. You have 30 days to collect them before they're auctioned off to cover your debts. Call ended, and I sat there in stunned silence. It had actually happened. Derek had lost everything in the span of one morning. My phone rang again. This time it was Margaret Chen. Emma, you're not going to believe what we found going through Derek's financial records. Tell me. He's been running a Ponzi scheme through Carter Technologies for the past 3 years. He's been taking investment money from new clients and using it to pay returns to old clients. Company is underwater by about $15 million. The SEC is opening an investigation. So, even if we hadn't destroyed him, he was about to implode anyway? Exactly. He was a house of cards waiting to fall. We just gave him a push. 2 p.m. sharp, Richard Brennan walked into my hospital room, his usual smug expression replaced by something approaching panic. Mrs. Carter, or should I say Ms. Stone, I want you to know that I had no knowledge of my client's criminal activities. I was merely representing him in a divorce proceeding. Save it, I cut him off. I'm not interested in your excuses. You came here yesterday and threatened me. You tried to bully a woman in a hospital bed into signing away her rights. How'd that work out for you? He had the decency to look ashamed. I apologize. If I'd known who you really were, you would have treated me better? That's the problem, Mr. Brennan. A person's worth shouldn't be determined by their bank account or their family name. You should treat everyone with basic human decency. But since you didn't, let me make one thing clear. I'm reporting you to the State Bar Association for attempted coercion and threatening behavior toward a vulnerable client. Enjoy explaining that to the Ethics Committee. His face went pale. Please, Miss Stone. I have a family. I need my license. You should have thought of that before you came into my room yesterday and tried to scare me into signing documents under duress. Now get out. He left without another word. That evening, Dr. Liu stopped by during his rounds. I saw the news, he said. Derek Carter arrested for fraud, attempted murder, and about a dozen other charges. His girlfriend in custody. His company in receivership. Emma, I have to ask, did you orchestrate all of this from a hospital bed? I smiled. I had help. But yes. Remind me never to get on your bad side, he said with genuine admiration. How are you really feeling? Physically, I mean. Tired. Sore. But better than I've felt in years, emotionally speaking. Good. 'Cause I have some news. Your recovery is progressing faster than expected. The swelling in your pelvis has gone down significantly, and your leg is healing well. I think we can start physical therapy next week. Really? Really? You're young, you're healthy, and you're motivated. I've seen patients in worse condition than you walk again within 6 months. You might have a slight limp, but I believe you'll make a full recovery. Tears sprang to my eyes. Derek told me I'd be in a wheelchair for a year. Maybe permanently. Derek was wrong about a lot of things, Dr. Liu said gently. But Emma, I have to tell you something. The severity of your injuries, the angle of impact, you should have died in that crash. The fact that you survived it all is remarkable. The fact that you're going to walk again is a miracle. Or fate, I said softly. Maybe I survived because I wasn't done yet. Because there was something I still needed to do. Maybe, he agreed. Whatever the reason, I'm glad you made it. After he left, I lay in the darkness, processing everything that had happened in just 36 hours. Derek had gone from wealthy CEO to unemployed criminal defendant. Madison was in jail awaiting trial. Their relationship was over, destroyed under the weight of their own betrayal and greed. And me? I was exactly where I needed to be. Recovering, rebuilding, and remembering who I really was. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Derek Carter, former CEO of Carter Technologies, arrested at public storage facility for assaulting a security guard. Bail denied. I couldn't help but laugh. He'd gone to collect his belongings and lost his temper. Classic Derek, making everything worse for himself. Alexander texted, "Did you see? He's in a holding cell until his arraignment next week." Also, the insurance company called. Your life insurance policy, the one Derek took out on you last year and named himself as beneficiary? They're investigating him for insurance fraud. This keeps getting better. I texted back, how much was the policy for? $5 million. Taken out 8 months ago. Right around the time he started seeing Madison. 8 months. The same timeline. They'd been planning my murder from the very beginning of their affair. The revelation should have hurt more than it did. But I'd already processed the betrayal. Now I was just collecting evidence for the criminal case. Over the next week, the story dominated the local news. Tech CEO's elaborate murder plot exposed. Billionaire heiress narrowly escapes death at hands of husband and mistress. Emma Stone, from victim to victor. I gave one carefully crafted interview from my hospital bed to a sympathetic female reporter. "Why did you hide your identity?" she asked. "I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what I had," I explained. "I wanted to know that my husband chose me, not my family's wealth." In the end, I got my answer. He didn't love me at all. He loved what he could take from me. What do you want people to know about your experience? I looked directly at the camera. I want other women to know that you don't have to stay in relationships where you're not valued. You don't have to accept crumbs of affection from people who should be giving you a feast. And most importantly, you don't have to be who others expect you to be. I spent 8 years trying to be someone simple, someone easy, someone who wouldn't threaten my husband's ego. And look where that got me. From now on, I'm going to be exactly who I am, unapologetically, completely, powerfully myself. The interview went viral. I received thousands of messages from women sharing their own stories of betrayal and finding strength. 2 weeks after the divorce papers were delivered, I was moved from the ICU to a rehabilitation wing. Physical therapy was brutal, painful, and exactly what I needed. Every step I took, every exercise I completed was proof that Derek had failed. He'd wanted to break me, and instead, he'd made me stronger. Sophia visited every day, bringing me reports on the legal proceedings. Madison had taken a plea deal, agreeing to testify against Derek in exchange for a reduced sentence. Derek's trial was set for 3 months away. The evidence against him was overwhelming. The prosecutor says it's the most clear-cut case of attempted murder she's ever seen, Sophia reported. Between Madison's testimony, the financial records, the security footage, and the forensic evidence from your car, Derek doesn't have a chance. Good. There's something else, Sophia added, her expression growing serious. We found something in Derek's old emails. Communications with a private investigator from 9 years ago. What kind of communications? Derek hired someone to investigate you before he proposed. The investigator found out who you really were, Emma Stone, billionaire heiress. There's an email where Derek writes, "If she's willing to walk away from all that money, imagine how easy it'll be to control her. She's perfect." The words hung in the air like poison. Derek had known who I was from the very beginning. He'd known, and he'd pursued me anyway because he saw my desire for a simple life as weakness to exploit. "He never loved me," I said quietly. "Not even at the start." "No," Sophia agreed. "He loved what he thought you represented, unlimited access to wealth and power. When you didn't give him that, when you kept your identity hidden, he decided to take everything you did have and then get rid of you." I absorbed this final betrayal and felt something inside me settle into place. There was no part of our relationship to mourn. It had all been a lie from the very first moment. "I want him to know," I said. "I want Derek to know that I know he knew. I want him to understand that his entire plan failed because he underestimated me." "You'll have your chance. The trial. You'll testify, and you can look him in the eye and tell him exactly what you think of him." 3 months later, I walked into the courtroom. Actually walked, with only a slight limp and a cane for support. Dr. Liu had been right. My recovery was remarkable. Derek was already seated at the defense table, looking haggard in an orange jumpsuit. He'd aged years in 3 months. His hair had gone gray at the temples. His face was drawn and pale. When he saw me walk in, his eyes widened. He'd expected a wheelchair. He'd expected broken, defeated Emma. Instead, he got Emma Stone in a designer suit, standing tall, walking on her own 2 feet. I took my place on the witness stand and was sworn in. Prosecutor, a sharp woman named Sarah Martinez, approached. Miss Stone, can you tell the court about your relationship with the defendant? I took a deep breath and began my testimony. I told them everything: the false courtship, the hidden investigation, the years of emotional manipulation, the theft of assets, and finally the attempted murder. When I got to the part about Derek visiting me in the hospital, I looked directly at him. He stood over my hospital bed while I was broken and in pain, and he told me he couldn't be married to a cripple. He threw divorce papers on my lap and told me I should be grateful he was being straightforward about abandoning me. He looked at me like I was garbage he was throwing away. Derek's lawyer objected. Relevance, Your Honor. The defendant's decision to end the marriage isn't. It's relevant, Sarah cut in, because it shows motive. The defendant needed to divorce his wife before she recovered enough to fight back. He needed her broken and compliant. And when she survived the murder attempt, he tried to finish the job psychologically. The judge allowed it. I continued, my voice steady and strong. What Derek didn't know was that he hadn't thrown away a helpless victim. He'd thrown away someone who had more resources than he could imagine. Someone who had spent her entire life learning how to fight in boardrooms and courtrooms. Someone who was about to make him regret every single decision he'd ever made. Derek looked away, unable to meet my eyes. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Madison testified, describing in detail how Derek had convinced her that killing me was the only solution, how he'd promised her a life of luxury funded by my life insurance payout and the assets he'd stolen. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Fraud. Insurance fraud. Embezzlement. The judge sentenced Derek to 25 years in prison without possibility of parole for 15 years. As they led him away in handcuffs, he finally looked at me. I underestimated you, he said quietly. Yes, I agreed. You did. You saw a woman who wanted a simple life and thought that made her weak. You forgot that I chose that life. I wasn't running from power, I was testing to see if I could be loved without it. Thanks for answering that question definitively. I did love you, he said, and I almost believed he believed it. At the beginning. No, Derek. You loved the idea of me. You loved thinking you'd found a billionaire heiress playing dress-up as a normal woman. You loved the power trip of controlling someone you thought was above you. But you never loved me. You didn't even know me. He opened his mouth to respond, but the guards pulled him away. I walked out of that courtroom with my head high. Outside, a crowd of reporters was waiting. Cameras flashed. Microphones thrust toward me. Ms. Stone, how do you feel about the verdict? Relieved that justice was served. What's next for you? I smiled. I'm joining Stone Industries as Chief Operating Officer. I'm also starting a foundation to help women escape abusive relationships and rebuild their lives. It's called the Second Chances Foundation, because everyone deserves a chance to start over, to become who they're meant to be. Any plans for romance in your future? I'm focused on my recovery and my career right now. But I'm not closed to the possibility. When the right person comes along, I'll know. This time, I won't hide who I am. I'll be loved for exactly who I am or not at all. 6 months later, I was standing in my new office on the 45th floor of Stone Industries headquarters, looking out over the city. The view was spectacular. A knock on my door made me turn. Dr. James Liu stood there, looking nervous in a suit instead of his usual scrubs. Dr. Liu? What are you doing here? I had a consultation with your company's health insurance provider, he explained. And I was hoping, if you're not too busy, you might have time for coffee. I feel like I never got to hear the end of your story. I smiled. I'd like that. And please call me Emma. You've seen me at my absolute worst. I think we're past formalities. Only if you call me James. We went to a coffee shop near the building. Over lattes, I told him everything, the whole truth from beginning to end. Remarkable, he said when I finished. You were facing death, betrayal, and impossible odds, and you turned it all around. I had help. My brother, my legal team, you. Your kindness in the hospital meant more than you know. I just did my job. No, you did more than that. You treated me like a person, not a victim. You believed me when I said I'd walk again. You helped me when I asked you to make my injuries seem worse than they were. You were on my side. He was quiet for a moment. Emma, I have a confession. I didn't just happen to have a consultation with your insurance company. I asked for it. I wanted an excuse to see you again. My heart skipped a beat. Why? Because in all my years as a surgeon, I've never met anyone like you. Your strength, your determination, your refusal to be defeated, it was inspiring. And I know the timing might not be right, and I know you just got out of a terrible marriage, but I couldn't let you disappear from my life without at least trying. I looked at this man who had literally helped put me back together, who had seen me at my most vulnerable and hadn't looked away, who had respected me, helped me, believed in me. The timing might not be perfect, I said slowly. But I learned something from my experience with Derek. Perfect timing is a myth. Life is messy and complicated and full of unexpected moments. The question is whether you're brave enough to take a chance on those moments. Are you? I thought about the woman I'd been 8 years ago, hiding who she was to test a man's love. I thought about the woman I'd become, scarred but stronger, broken but rebuilt, changed but more herself than ever before. Yes, I said. I am. But James, I need you to understand something. I'm not looking for someone to save me or take care of me. I can do those things for myself. I'm looking for a partner. An equal. Someone who sees all of me, the power, the wealth, the scars, the strength, the vulnerability, and isn't intimidated or dazzled or put off by any of it. That's exactly what I see when I look at you, he said. All of it. And I'm not intimidated. I'm intrigued. I want to know more. I want to know everything. 3 years later, James and I stood in a small ceremony surrounded by only our closest friends and family. Alexander walked me down the aisle, not to give me away, but to stand beside me as I chose my own path. The vows I wrote were simple. I promise to be exactly who I am with you. I promise to let you be exactly who you are. I promise that we will build a life together based on truth, respect, and genuine love. Not the love of convenience or conquest, but the love of two people who see each other clearly and choose each other anyway. Derek's trial had become a case study in law schools about domestic abuse, financial fraud, and attempted murder. His name was synonymous with betrayal. He would spend the next decade in prison at minimum. Madison had served 3 years and was released on parole. Last I heard, she was working at a fast food restaurant in a small town, her dreams of wealth and luxury replaced by the reality of being a convicted felon. As for me, the Second Chances Foundation had helped over 3,000 women escape abusive situations and rebuild their lives. Stone Industries was thriving under Alexander's and my joint leadership. My limp had almost completely disappeared. The scars from my injuries had faded. But the scars on my heart, the lessons I'd learned, those remained. They reminded me every day of who I was, what I'd survived, and how I'd emerged stronger. On my wedding night, as James and I danced under the stars, he whispered, "Any regrets?" I thought about that question. Did I regret the 8 years with Derek? The pain, the betrayal, the near-death experience? No, I said honestly. I regret nothing, 'cause all of it led me here. To this moment. To you. To myself. I had to lose everything to find out who I really was. I had to be broken to learn how strong I could be. I had to face death to truly appreciate life. That's a very Zen perspective on almost being murdered, James said with a smile. I laughed. I've had therapy. A lot of therapy. Well, it's working. Years later, when young women ask me how I survived, how I rebuilt, how I found happiness again, I always tell them the same thing. Stop making yourself small to make others comfortable. Stop hiding your light to avoid outshining someone's insecurity. Be exactly who you are, powerfully, unapologetically, completely. The right people will love you for it. The wrong people will reveal themselves. And when they do, when they try to break you or diminish you or destroy you, remember this: you are stronger than you know. You are worth more than they can imagine. And you have the power to rebuild your life into something more beautiful than they could ever comprehend. Derek thought he was discarding a broken, helpless woman when he threw those divorce papers at my hospital bed. What he actually did was free Emma Stone from the cage of Emma Carter. He gave me back to myself. And that was the greatest gift he could have given me, even if he never meant it as one. I survived. I thrived. I won. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure other women know they can do the same. The door to my past is closed. The door to my future is wide open. And I'm walking through it with my head held high, my scars worn proudly, and my heart full of the genuine love I always deserved. Derek Carter thought he knew who I was. He thought he could predict what I'd do, how I'd react, how easily I'd break. He was wrong about all of it, because the woman he married was playing a part. But the woman who walked out of that courtroom, who built an empire, who found real love, who changed thousands of lives, that's who I really am. Emma Stone. Survivor. Fighter. Winner. And this is my story.